Welcome to Follow the Darn System to a more profitable, sustainable, and satisfying practice. I got to tell you, man, this is like a wonderful day for me. I am so excited. I can't even stand it for a lot of reasons. But one of which, and maybe the main reason, is that I get to present with Tim Crisafulli today. So Tim and I go way back. I was teaching the program that he was in a few years ago. And of course, now everybody knows that he's teaching the program and taking it to another level. And it's just an honor.
Here we go. I need to mute.
Thanks, Jeff. The bromance is mutual. I still vividly remember sitting in the session with you and Susan Hunter training. It was Orlando. And I tell you, I was intrigued after day one. By after day two, I was hooked. And you are a huge part of the reason I'm part of this organization. So I too share the bromance.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. This is going to be awesome. And I know Tim will tell you, I have spent a lot of time prepping for this. I had side conversations with Dave Zampano and Phil Miner and Tim and Brittany and Candace Pollock. I mean, I am doing my due diligence because I think this presentation today, hopefully it will be one that a lot of us will look back on as a defining moment in our careers and in our practices, and team members will look back on as well. So I am just really excited to do this presentation today. So next slide, my friend. So a little bit about me. I know a lot of you know my story. You've watched my workshops. You've heard my purpose story. A lot of you were in the room when we created it. So I won't talk today much about, how I got into elder law and how my mom being sick and not knowing the answers really kind of led me to this profession. I think a lot of you know that story, but why present today? Why, give back? Why do different sessions at different retreats? Certainly at this point, I think Tim and I could both say, hey, you know what? We've done our due diligence. We've done our give back, we're done. But I think it's just all about this community and this family and wanting everybody to have the success that we have had and want everybody to be able to enjoy the things that we've been able to enjoy. And I can look back on moment after moment in my career, and point to that specific thing that changed my life, or point to that conversation. I was struggling. I was an estate planning attorney and didn't believe in the way that it was being done in those firms. And then was able to get my master's in taxation. I was able to become a certified elder law attorney. But the moment when my life changed was when I met Phil Miner in Jersey City at a NALA conference. And he was teaching me all about what LWP is and what it can do for my life. And I immediately bought into the culture and to everything about it. And that's what changed my life. And are we perfect? Heck no. Right? Do we follow 100% of everything 100% of the time? Heck no. But it's a journey. It's failing forward. It's moving forward. It's making minor shifts consistently and having others hold you accountable. And so my purpose for this today is that I want for you what we have, and the team camaraderie and the belief and just everything that we've been able to accomplish. And, it's just one FDS at a time and one shift and keep moving forward. And that's what it's all about. So before I turn it over to Tim, I want to make you 3 promises today. All right. We're going to have fun. We're going to learn a lot, and the time is going to fly by. And if we do those 3 things, we're only looking for 1 in return. Anybody want to guess? Yeah. Fill out that evaluation. Now, you can just save yourself time now and just give us all 5s. All 5 stars says, Jeff, you're wonderful. This presentation was well worth our time. 1 star is, Jeff, you're horrible. Find a new profession. Now, if I have to tell my beautiful wife that I have to find a new profession tonight after giving this session today, I may have to find a new wife. And I love her way too much. So if you will please use 1 sparingly, but any other number is fair game, that would be greatly appreciated. Tim, the floor is yours, my friend.
I feel like I've heard you say some of those things before. Always good to hear them again, though, for sure. Okay, I want to make sure, is my screen sharing working properly? I always get
yes, sir,
from my computer. Okay.
You're killing it.
All right, sounds good. All right, so here we go. Jeff shared a little bit about his journey. I'll share just a little bit about mine. There they are. There's the crew. That's why I get up on Mondays and go into work, right? So, as Jeff and I were talking about this, one of the things that I think each of us uncovered, and anytime I do a presentation, it's not entirely an act of selflessness. There's plenty to be personally gained by it. It's a lot of reflection going in. It's a lot of discussions with other people. But I kind of realized that what makes me function comes down to two things. It's my family and it's learning, it's education. I mean, I taught, many of you know who know me, I taught for 10 years before deciding to go to law school in the first place. After establishing that career, after getting a master's, thinking I was going to teach forever, I was off to law school because I thought it'd be fun to go learn more. It was. And then I got a job, and while I was there, I was off to get an LLM because I thought it'd be fun to learn more. And it was. Had my entrepreneurial seizure, the way just about all of us have. And then I started my own firm. My issue, though, was this whole love for learning thing. It can risk bringing in certain quirky features to one's life. All right, those of you from PWP, you didn't believe me, right? When we were doing this whole, so what hobbies do you? Yeah, really, the whole Revolutionary War reenacting thing. First time I busted this one out for Brianna Moriarty, it was just before 4th of July. She said, "You got any plans?" I said, "Boy, do I." And I showed her this very picture. Hope you remember that one fondly, Bri. So this is nice, right? They're cute pictures, they're cute kids. I like to learn, all that. I love my family, all that stuff. But here's the thing. This whole learning thing, that's nice. This whole like to be in this environment and teaching and sharing, that's nice. But what I was entirely unable to do with my law degree, I was unable to monetize it. I had no earthly idea where the money was supposed to come from that was supposed to follow getting this big fancy degree, because it doesn't just show up once you nail it to the wall, right? So then came Dave into my life, and he talked me into, he said, "Hey, you gotta come, you gotta, you gotta leave your family." Thanks, Dave. "You gotta leave your family behind in the middle of winter, come down to Orlando, these little kids, and just hear all this." And that, of course, is when I met Jeff, and the rest is history. One of the fun things about my journey, now going on 5 years with LWP, is for a time I was moonlighting a bit in the estate planning law center. And as part of that, I got to see what a fully functioning, fully mature firm looks like as I continued to build my own. So, I understand the struggles of following the darn system because I have lived and continue to live the struggles of following the darn system. So here I come in as a high fact finder, love the family, love education, love to learn, but I did not know how to monetize things until enter LWP and enter the system.
For me, I love, well, first of all, I love this picture, and I put it in as many presentations as I possibly can just because it makes me smile. But why an FDS workshop? Frankly, because we don't want you to make the same mistakes we did. One of the things that I believe in is that, yes, we can all be successful, but you can be more successful a lot quicker than we were for a lot of reasons. But mainly of which is because I didn't believe it initially, because I wasted too much time, because I didn't believe. And I wasted years and years that I look at where we're at now and I think, man, if I had just done that sooner, if I had just believed sooner, I would have gotten there a lot more quickly. So at the end of the day, that is why the FDS workshop. And as I have been reflecting in preparing for this presentation, there are a lot of moments that stand out for me. So I joined at the end of 2009 to Lawyers with Purpose, went to the program in February of 2010. But I can't say we bought in 100%. I can't say that it changed my life in that moment, because why? Because I picked and chose. I decided when I wanted to follow it and when I didn't. I decided when it felt right and when it didn't. And the rest is history. But I made a promise. Tammy, who is my paralegal and has been with me from day one, was in that program with me. And I remember getting on the plane, looking at her and my partner, Nate, saying, well, guys, this is either going to be the best decision of our lives or the worst. So how about we make it the best if all things are equal? All right. What do you think? And we committed to it and we said we would. And, we did our thing. We succeeded and we failed and we did, a little bit here and there. But I remember in Syracuse at a retreat, and I believe it was 2011. And I think the retreat was called Back to the Basics, if I'm not wrong. We were sitting there, and I just remember Dave was talking about time templating. And he was talking about you need to have so much time for these types of meetings, blue meetings and green meetings, and you need to set aside growth time. And you should have 4 hours a week where you're really dedicated to learning the system and implementing it. And you need to have this and you need to have that. And here I am, the new guy, raises his hand and says, with all due respect, I don't know if you know what it's like to not know if you're going to be able to make payroll or put food on the table. And you got to take these meetings as they come. You can't template. You can't predict. You can't force people into certain times. And, Dave was able to reflect and kind of push back respectfully. And, but in that moment, man, I was shut down. I was not listening. But throughout the entire retreat, hearing the back to the basics, and I still think to this day, that's my favorite session I've ever attended. It hit me. It dawned on me finally, and it hit me. Gosh, it's all here. It's Prego, my friend. It's in there. Just follow the system. So I get up on a debrief, and I know it's still on camera. I know you can still see it. And I stood up and said, what stood out for me today is this is all really simple. I just have to follow the damn system. It's there. It's in there. And that is where FDS, that's where that phrase came from. And, I then started the coaching program that Dave offered to the first 8 people who would come forward. And that program that I was a part of is now what your coaching program is. It's what your implementation program is. A lot of those things that we were doing in that program was test piloting and working on those things. But the number one thing was accountability. It was accountability, because I will not get on a call and not do what I say I'm going to do, or not follow through on what I say I'm going to follow through on. And another moment that really struck me was Tammy came to me one day and pulled me aside, closed the door. Now, you guys know you're in trouble when somebody closes the door and you're the only people in the office, right? Not good, not good. And Tammy says, Jeff, I love you, and I'm really glad that I made this decision to come with you. But I took a risk. And a lot of people thought I was crazy for going out with a young kid. But I believe in you. But if you don't get over your social worker tendencies, and if you don't stop giving everything away for free, you and I are both going to have to go get jobs somewhere else. So please, Jeff, figure out what you need to do to feel comfortable charging, which is why I put all my fees in plastic and leave them on the table. Because as the guru of NALA said, and who's a member of LWP, Bill Briss said, nobody argues with plastic. And that is very true. But again, one of those moments where I was straying, right? I was not following it. I wasn't FDSing, and I needed to be brought back. And Tammy did that for me. One major thing I want all of you to do when you go back to the office is to give your team permission to hold you accountable. Team, this presentation is probably more to you than it is to the attorneys. They're going to succeed if you buy in. They're going to succeed if you hold them accountable and if you hold yourself accountable. So, I could give story after story of every moment, where I saw Dave give that synergy meeting for the first time. I could go on and on of all the things that have really hit me and changed me. But at the end of the day, it's all about following the system and believing in it. And one last story, and then I'll move on and let Tim change the slide. We made that promise when we got on that plane that we were going to make it best decision or worst. And why not make it the best? What the heck? Timmy and I did another thing that day. We promised each other that when we hit 10 years, we're going to go on a cruise. And we're going to celebrate our success, because so many others in town said we were going to fail and how horrible we were going to be. And Jeff didn't know anything about anything, which is pretty true. But I knew I was going to succeed, because failure wasn't an option, man. We burnt the boats behind us. So we promised each other we were going to go on a cruise at our 10th anniversary. And we did. and we took our team members and clients came along, and we had one heck of a week. But I also brought my partner Nate with me, and Nate left after about 6 months of he and I going out on our own. And I brought him along, and I took care of his family. And the reason for that is because I wouldn't have been there without him. If he didn't believe in me and he didn't believe in LWP and this system, we wouldn't have gotten on that plane. He and I had a lot of conversations that week. And one thing that really struck me was he said to me, Jeff, I don't understand, man. I just don't get it. We were in that room together. We heard the same presentation. We heard the same program. Here we are 10 years later, and I'm in-house at a tire manufacturer making a living, and you're living your dream, man. You're teaching, you're helping people, you're just doing all kinds of fun stuff, and you're living in your unique ability. And I'm working as an in-house counsel for a tire manufacturer. What's the difference? We heard the same thing. And I look at him and I said, Nate, the only difference is I found every reason why it would work. And I believed, and you found every reason why it wouldn't work. And he's like, wow, you're right, man. That's the only difference. So be the person who believes. Find every reason that it will work. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so just before we move forward, I want to share, I think, a phenomena that happens to just about every member. And I say this because, with the training of PWP, that's how I met many of the folks who were here. I know that many of the folks who are on this call just experienced PWP, many of you for the very first time. But if you think back to that experience, I think many of us felt that sensation of drinking from a fire hose. It's just so many things. It's all at once. There are great ideas in here. There are varying levels of excitement, but surely there's at least some takeaway that says, wow, that thing looks really good, or that piece of the system was impressive, or I really like how those vision meetings cause clients to enroll and you're really not selling. And you might take a few pieces, but then the Monday after taper comes and you got to get back to the office and you see all the emails that piled up and the phone messages are waiting and payroll's coming, right? You got to hit that next payroll. And so there is this issue that I think a lot of us have. I can certainly share I did, that was great, but how the heck am I going to implement it all at once? And I think it becomes really easy between the time of first exposure to the system, at least as much of it as you can cram in a 3-day stretch, versus commitment to the system. And what a difference that is. Exposure to the system versus commitment to the system. So I want to share the moment when I committed, because it was not at first. I saw my initial PWP. I was impressed. I liked it. I went home. I start doing sort of my watered down version of a vision meeting, the way it kind of made sense to me. I didn't follow the system. But then you remember how I shared initially, crazy rep war guy here. I like learning. I like teaching a lot. And so I wormed my way into training PWP, and I loved doing it. And I got excited about it. I like to think I presented it well. And dirty secret, I wasn't doing all the things. Feels better just to have said it, Jeff. Feels better that it's out there. All right, so I wasn't doing all the things even as I was teaching it. Okay. But then what happened to me was a lot of people came who I trained. I remember one gentleman named Mike. He came to 3 in a row, and he was one of these front row kids. You know the ones. He was always in the front row right there listening. And then another session, a woman came, and she was over here. And the two of them were talking about, well, I'm new to this area of law. And I'm thinking, I got 10 years experience doing trust, estate, and elder law, even some tax in the background there. And, they're asking questions that are pretty, I'm new to this kinds of questions. What's the distinction between revocable and irrevocable? They're asking some baseline questions, and we answer and we train, and on they go. I see them again about a year later, and we're doing the share. What's your success? Well, I hired 4 people. We saw 300 clients last year. Our revenue is up there. And I'm sitting there, not yet committed to the system, even though I trained these people who are belting out these massive successes. And I'm thinking, well, now what's the difference? There's only one. They committed to the system, and I was still resisting the system. And that was it. So it was October 2018 at the retreat that we'll all have this afternoon. My big takeaway was I am committing to the system, and I'm going to do all the things. Granted, I can't do them all at once. I can't implement them the very next Monday I get home. But there is a huge mindset shift between, am I going to put my energy into resisting it, or am I going to put my energy into adopting it? Because there's energy going either way. So that's when I shifted. And that was my moment of buy-in. I hope, and I know Jeff hopes from his introductory comments, that to the extent you've fallen off the wagon, to the extent you've not yet bought in, I hope this presentation creates a little more excitement about buying in and commitment to buy into.
You know, I don't think it's the first time I've heard this, but Andrew Geloza earlier in a session I was listening to this morning mentioned about, you know, him being a social worker. And I have a feeling that for most of us who got into estate planning and elder law, we should have been social workers or teachers. At least that's what I always believed. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I genuinely believe that a lot of people that gravitate to LWP, Lawyers with Purpose, really have that social worker mindset, that social worker background, and we just want to help. You know, we really want to make a difference in our communities. We really want to help. And that's why we kind of gravitated. That's what LWP is to me. It's community. For those of you who have never been to a retreat, make sure you go to Charlotte. These virtuals are awesome and they're certainly wonderful, but you can't beat after a session is over, sitting at a bar or in a chair across from somebody in the hotel and talking about your struggles and what worked and what didn't work, and the friendships and the community and the team. And it's like nothing other. I mean, I have been, you know, I'm a member of NALA, I've been a member of Wealth Council and Elder Council and all the other councils there are. And, you know, cool, you know, they give me what I need, I guess. But nothing has the community. I've never met an organization that wants to help as much as this one. I think everybody knows if you need something, we'll certainly share our forums, we'll share our workshops, we'll give you anything. Come and watch, come and do. And I think that's pretty much everybody in the entire organization. We're not competitors. We're team members. We do a Pennsylvania call once a month, and we provide everything to each other and help. And some of us are in the same areas, and we somewhat do compete. But no, you don't. It's different. You know, we're here. There's a purpose. There's a reason. I think every one of my team members who works with us could make more money elsewhere. They could be doing other things. I don't think there's any question about that. But they have their own stories. They have their own reasons for wanting to be a part of our team and be a part of our mission and our purpose. And I really think that's what it means to be a lawyer with purpose and the family. At the end of the day, I don't think there's any other organizations that have family like we do. And I think that's really what it is all about and why our organization is different than any other. And I truly believe that. Go ahead, Tim.
I love it that David in his keynote highlighted and underscored the LWP core values. If these are you, this system will work beautifully for you. If this is you, this system really will work beautifully for you. You know, and to highlight a few of these things, open. Are you open to committing to the system? Curious. You know, curious is defined as we ask questions of others and seek information from resources within and outside our organization to discover ways to improve beyond our current knowledge. Do you believe that using the system and fully buying into it can improve wherever you are right now? Even if where you are right now is delightful, do you believe that a closer adherence to the system can make it even better? Aware, we are present to our and others' behaviors that inhibit progress. Why haven't you fully implemented the system? Why are you straying from it at all? Have you ever really thought about it? I mean, why not just fully commit to it? Do you have behaviors that are inhibiting your progress? And adaptable. Are you willing to embrace the change necessary to fully implement the system? Again, where's your energy going? Resisting it or fully implementing it?
I'm very fortunate that a lot of you who are members, call me if you're struggling, or even before you join, some of you called to ask my opinion on the membership, and those of you who I've talked to will admit, I said to everybody, I don't think this organization is for everybody. I really don't. If you're going to question everything, and if you're not going to believe, and you're not going to try it on, for lack of a better phrase, or frankly, if you're not going to commit the time, if you're not going to be disciplined in implementing, I don't know that it is. It is a lot. There is no question. It's not a magic pill. You have to put the time in. And one of the things that I hear a lot of with people questioning themselves or questioning the system, I've heard several people say to me, Jeff, why is it that Dave's way is better than mine? Why is it that, how do we know that I'm not, better, or my systems or my ideas aren't better? And my response to them was, well, because you're here. You're looking for something, right? You're here looking for something. There's a reason why you're thinking of joining, or you wouldn't be here. So if everything is working perfectly, and you're living the life and making the money that you want, and you're, helping your community the way that you see, and you're taking care of your team, I don't think you should join. If you have it all together, man, don't do it. But what struck me is that a lot of people think that this was Dave by himself. Now, those of you who know me know that I am the biggest Dave Zampano fan that there is, and I drink the Kool-Aid, and I am his biggest fan and always will be. But there's a lot more that goes into Lawyers with Purpose. I mean, he was the businessman. He was the entrepreneur. He knew that there was, a business here and that people could be successful. Absolutely. But he was a member of other national organizations like the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys, and there was concepts there that they were using, and they were ahead of their time, and they were cutting edge, and they were doing things that were a little kind of right at the edge of the cusp, and doing things. And then he went out, and people left, and they went in another national organization way. But Dave was smart. He hired professionals. He had Dave Sander. He had salespeople. He hired national communication experts, people skills. There were hundreds of thousands of dollars that went into this, and that created the system. If there's one thing that I want to say, is this is science. If you don't think that there's a science behind the audit, or behind writing the answers in the synergy meeting, or the communication skills that we learn, this isn't just one idea that one person had one day in the bathroom. This is years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars of research and professionals and just science that goes behind it. So get that idea out of your head that, well, my way is better, it's Dave versus, no, it's not. This is a science. This is a system that hundreds of thousands, years and years of national organizations, and of course now Dave is teaching, with the academy and other organizations as well. And so it's just a lot more that goes behind it than one individual. Go ahead, Tim.
So a little bit more about the science behind the system. So in building it and in structuring it and developing it over time, all these different components of the system were built to work together. So if you skip a step in the system, it's going to ripple through and it's going to affect other aspects of the system. So are you not doing RMS? Because if you're not doing the relationship management system portion, how are you getting enough butts in the seats at the workshops? And if you're doing workshops, are you getting the evaluations at the end? Because if you're not getting the evaluations at the end, how are you capturing information, and how are you making sure that they're going to sign up for the vision meeting? And if you're not doing team meetings and you're not running the reports, how do you know what your cash flow is going to be, and how can you budget? I mean, it is a process to implement all of these things, but I just want to underscore that they are all designed carefully through science to work together. And skipping steps, picking and choosing anything less than a full dedication to following all parts of the system, even if you can't implement it all at once, put the energy toward implementation. Make the strides you can as you can, because not only does it ripple through, but each part that you do implement is going to strengthen all the other parts of the system. As Jeff mentioned, there were numerous companies involved in the creation of the system, numerous labs. My gosh, Dave, he was talking about Guider and its rollout, and he's talking about how it's been in development for over a year. He's talking about it being tested by 6 different firms across the country. Jeff commented on Dave's affiliation and LWP's affiliation with national organizations. And this is a system that is underway with continuous development. It looks different now than it did when I first joined. It's better now than it was when I first joined. The action step interfaces and integration is better now than when I first joined. And one of the things I do is I sit on the document review board. And so this is a group of us who meets regularly to look at what comes in on the help desk. Suggestions. How might this document be better? How might that document be improved? Should we think about reviewing the language? And so we do review that language carefully, and research goes into it. And sometimes the answer is it works as intended, not going to make the change. Sometimes the answer is, yeah, let's tweak this thing and make it a little bit better. The point is, as Jeff said a little while ago, none of this is just made up. This is the result of intensive investment of time and energy and review. And so it's not just do the system because it's cool, it's do the system because it works. There's great value in it and great refinement to it.
Well, I know for many of us, when we joined the organization, we actually received this book. I don't know if they're still doing it. I don't know when they stopped, if they aren't doing it anymore, but certainly this book changed my life. And I read it cover to cover, which I certainly, I love the fact that it was given and that I got to read it and I believe in it. But what's the bottom line of what Michael Gerber is saying in the E-Myth? Well, you need systems and processes. You have got to have them. And I remember in 2009 when I was talking to Phil and Dave in Jersey City at that NAILA conference, telling them my struggles. I mean, pretty much they both said, well, you lack systems and processes. It's clear as to why you're struggling getting consistent cash flow and having consistent referrals and getting people to hire you is because your system is none. There isn't one, and it's haphazard. So Jeff, you got 2 choices, my friend. You can either create them or you could buy them. And essentially we're offering to you with our system that we have them, and all you have to do is purchase them and you will have all the systems and processes. And, I don't have the skill set to create. There are probably a few of you who do, but even if you do, my question to you is it worth the time that it's going to take to create them on your own? And would your skill sets be better used in other ways? And I still think they would be, but that is where I decided I'm just going to go ahead and buy them or rent them as this slide says as well. So it's in there, right? Prego. They're there. The systems and processes are built into Lawyers with Purpose. As Tim said, every step along the way has a step that is dependent on that step above it. So if you don't fill out that gold sheet properly and it's not input into action step properly, your reports aren't coming out right. And the dashboards and the accountability and the reporting is second to none. But if you forget that step at the very beginning because you don't feel like doing it, it's going to have a ripple effect on the way down. So if you don't have systems and processes, you're going to be living in chaos. You're going to have a lot of stress. There's going to be a lot of unpredictable results. So in the words of Michael Gerber, you have the system. It's there for you. Just use it. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, my experience with this book was I read it too late. I was all excited about the first chapter because it underscored and sort of reflected what my experience had been, working for somebody else, all of a sudden, well, I can go out and do this stuff, so quit. And I finished that first chapter and I'm going, oh, this is great. Chapter 2, it doesn't work without a system. Uh-oh. I realized a little bit. I probably should have read chapter 2 before I hold off and quit that job, but I built one since then. So we've been talking about the system in this very ethereal way thus far. So what is it? Particularly for people who are new or for people who've been around for a while and maybe have strayed from parts of it, let's take a little while and remember what the heck the thing is. What does the flow look like visually? And let's take a moment and take stock and challenge ourselves to say, geez, am I following it? Have I strayed from it in certain places? Why have I strayed from it in certain places, if so? And then perhaps consider recommitting to it, understanding that the whole thing is one cohesive unit, and the more thoroughly we integrate, the better off the firm is going to run. So the next couple slides are going to be some flow charts of some parts of the system, and we're going to look at some different models that are within there. Okay. Now, be honest as we go through this, folks. Do you really know what each one of these little boxes is going to mean? Do you really recall all the tools that are supposed to be used in each section? If you're saying, well, I'm not getting enough butts in the seats at workshops. When I'm on calls with members, sometimes I ask the next follow-up question, how's your RMS going? How are your synergy meetings going? And if the answer is, oh, haven't been doing those in a while, that might help, follow that part of the system to get the butts in the seats at the workshop. Or if there's another member help call I was on, I just don't have enough time to do the team meetings. Oh, how's your reporting going? How does everybody know how the cash flow is going to hit? So with that in mind, looking at some specific pieces of the system, I'm fresh out of PWP. I got this down right now. But you will recall, whether you were at PWP a long time ago or a short time ago, do you remember what the system is? So do you recall all the things that are supposed to happen at that initial contact? Client services coordinator, the person picking up the phone. How well versed is your client services coordinator in the MiFi skills? Have they been trained in them? Have they been trained maybe multiple times in them? PWP the first time through can be pretty overwhelming. Is it understood, really, that the goal of that initial contact is to get somebody either into a workshop or into an initial meeting? Are you sending follow-up letters after that initial contact and before the workshop that's going to set expectations of what's going to happen at the workshop, and that there will be a close at the end of the vision meeting? I did a whole entire session on this with Mandy yesterday, just this one little tiny piece of the broader system as a whole. And it was a full, complete discussion just on 3 of these 4 boxes that you see in front of you. Are you doing all the pieces at the workshop? Are you doing it according to the system? And are you doing it according to the standards? Are you telling all 15 of the stories? Or have you strayed from it a little bit? Are you finishing by getting the evaluation? Or have you strayed from it? Are you using COVID as an excuse to stray from the system? And perhaps the inability to be physically present in a room to stray from the system? How's that going for you? And at the vision meeting, are you running it according to standard? Are you really using all the tools that you're supposed to? You remember what they are? If it's been a while, are you still doing the audit? Are you still doing the vision clarifier? Are you starting out with that client goal focuser? Are you doing all the pieces? Are you ending the vision meeting with an engagement? So as we go through these, remember what the system is. Be sure your whole team has been trained in the system. It takes a few cracks at it to get fully trained at the system. Know what's available to you to complete that training in the system. And then I challenge you, rather than resist it and put your energy into resisting it, put your energy into implementing it. So the broadest picture, remember that the practice model has various component systems within it. Okay. There is the relationship management system. Are you doing them? Are you doing the synergy meetings? Are you following up with the strategy meetings? Are you following up with the relationship review meetings? Remember, there is the client enrollment system from the prior page. Are you doing all the pieces of it? Do you really remember and do you know what each part of the system is at each step? If so, wonderful. But I challenge you to do them in full compliance with what the system requires if you're not already doing so. Or if you're tweaking, or if you're changing some of the tools, why are you doing that? And maybe put the energy into coming back into compliance. Jeff?
Within the last few years, we added a bunch of other qualification processes, and Medicaid happens to be one of them. And this slide will talk about what are the 5 key events in the Medicaid qualification process, the initial meeting, the review meeting, the application, preparation, and submission. If there is an interview in your state with the Medicaid office, or if you have to have just phone calls or however your state does it, and then ultimately the determination, which we look for a favorable determination, of course, in that aspect. So that's a little bit about the MedQual process. Is this one you or me, Tim?
I've got you on this, Jeff.
All right, fair enough. So this is kind of the 30,000 foot view, from the initial contact to whether it goes to an initial meeting or a workshop. The one comment I wanted to make that Tim said, but I think it bears repeating, is your person that is that director of first impression or the client service coordinator, they control everything. I argue they are the most important person in the firm. They control cash flow like none other. And are they trained? How are their communication skills? Have they been trained several times on them? Have they sat in every meeting? Have they sat in an initial meeting? Have they sat in a vision meeting? Have they sat in all the meetings, frankly, to really understand what are the purpose of the meetings? What's the end goal? What are we trying to help the clients with? What do the meetings feel like? There are not many people that can skip a workshop. I know of one member who is extremely successful, and I won't say his name because I don't want everyone calling him and asking him how he skips it, because I genuinely believe the workshops are the most important part of the process. But he made a conscious choice and was able to figure out ways to make it work for him and his firm, and they have done it successfully. But most of us aren't skilled like him. Most of us don't have those abilities, and it's not something that I would recommend doing. And I think making sure that your team fully embraces the Lawyers with Purpose process. If they've not attended a program, you've got to make sure that they come to the next one, that they learn the skills, the MiFi skills, the communication skills, and see how this big picture fits in to where they are in the seat and where they are, and how the process goes through vision to design to sign, and then how the maintenance program fits into it as well. The maintenance program is a game changer, but I'll say this, it's a game changer for your clients. I held off for years in doing it because I thought it was only a moneymaker, and I thought it was only for me, and I didn't see the value. And when I finally saw how the value was really to the clients, I bought in lock, stock, and barrel, and I'll tell you, it's the best thing we've ever done. And clients love it, and it's so valuable for them. So for sure, seeing how everything fits in. Notice the color coding. For those of you who didn't pick up on the colors, blue, green, yellow, right? There's a science behind that. There's a system behind that. So if you're not really sure how that fits in, make sure you talk to your implementation coaches to see how all that color coding fits into your templating and fits into everything. That's going to guide you. That's going to take you to the promised land.
One of the things I'm thinking about as I look at this slide, Jeff, is I'm thinking about this afternoon and the firm retreats.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wouldn't this be a nice thing to have next to you as you're figuring out goals between now and the next taper, and just sort of say, how are we doing with initial contact? And might that give rise to some goals? How are we doing in the lead up to the design meeting, and then what happens after the design meeting, and see if maybe that gets rise to some goals as we do that brainstorming activity.
Yeah, great idea, Tim.
Here, it's all here. The guidance exists. Taking all the energy to recreate the wheel seems like a misuse of energy to me. But we're going into those retreats this afternoon, so food for
thought. You can't swallow that elephant all at once, right? You have to take it one bite at a time, and nobody's perfect. None of us, Tim and I included. There are no firms that are following this 100%. I guarantee it. I don't think that's possible 100% for everything. But it's moving.
The other thing that's happening, even as I look at this right now, I'm thinking of anything that I have as a frustration in my practice right now. It's somewhere, it's in one of those boxes, and it's because something in one of those boxes is not ironed out.
Yes.
Something in one of those boxes is not happening the right way. And something in one of those boxes is what I got to pay attention to over the next 6 months.
And that's what I think the dashboard, for those of you who are following the dashboard, reporting out those numbers on a weekly basis to your team you're seeing problems ahead of time. And if you start seeing low ICFs, or you start seeing low conversion rates, or people aren't converting from the workshop to the vision meetings at the same pace, or your dollar per hire is going down, it's something in the system that you've strayed from. It's something that you're not doing, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It doesn't have to be intentional, don't forget. The one thing that I used to love about teaching the program was reminding myself, holy crap, I stopped doing that. And I don't even remember when I stopped doing it. It wasn't an intentional decision. I just kind of strayed. So continually anchor back. If you're paying attention to your numbers, you're going to see where you're straying, and then you just have to be able to identify it.
I think I just found a new poster for my wall in my office.
This one.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody knows this is my favorite slide, right? RMS. I love the entire system. I love the accountability. I love the predictability. I love the tracking. I love the system behind it. I love everything about it. And, we had no money at the beginning. So it was Jeff out pounding the pavement, 4 synergy meetings a week, and sending out the opinion letter and doing everything. And that's what kind of got the ball rolling. It's a little snowball. It starts slow and then it builds and it builds and it builds. But this slide is kind of the big picture of RMS. You got to do a little bit of everything. You got to have some firm branding. You got to have community presentations going on. Get out there for your networking opportunities. And at some level, you're going to need to do some direct contacts as well, and some retail. That all funnels into that initial contact. Who is that person? Are they skilled? Do they understand the system? Do they understand the why? Do they believe? Are they a true believer? And then everything funnels from there into the different types of meetings: synergy, strategy, relationship review. I know we've done several kind of retreats and different things on this process as a whole. So if you want a refresher, I know there's one from 2012. I believe Susan Hunter and I did that at the retreat. That's a pretty good overview of RMS and the different meetings and what the objectives of them are and how to do them properly. So you can certainly reach out to your implementation coaches, and I'm sure they can guide you in the direction of different tools and resources that we have.
Okay, on to a little bit of a reminder of the time templating and the color coding, okay? I'll share with you that during this most recent PWP, when we were rolling this out, one participant, she said a number of things, but the theme of the conversation was, I don't have time to take control of my time. I don't have time to take control of my time. Who among us has not felt that sentiment, right? Because you might put together your time template and then the phone happens to ring and something happens to blow up. Or all of a sudden, school will be offered remotely this year. And Tim, you'll be teaching kindergarten 24 hours a month. Who knows what the surprise might be? But let's look at what's ideal. Let's look at what the system is. And let's, again, put our energy toward implementing the system and not resisting the system. So a reminder about the whole color coding system. Remember that we have blue and we have green and we have yellow time. And yellow and blue make green. There's a concept from kindergarten, which I was refreshed on just recently. Anyway, the light blue time is designed to be scheduled time to work on marketing to get meetings. Types of things you're doing are networking. You're doing RMS meetings, doing workshops, doing community presentations, doing exhibits. You are doing what it takes to get your name out there. Doing what it takes to get people who are going to come in and then consider enrolling with your system. Dark blue, that's your moment to get hired. A dark blue meeting should end with an engagement letter being signed. That was my presentation yesterday. These are meetings to generate clients. These are vision meetings, and these are initial meetings. Dark green, these are the best ones. These are where you get paid. Meetings with projected revenue to be collected. How nice it is to know what your revenue is going to be by glancing at your calendar so that you can project what you need to hit goal and where you stand. These are things like transaction fees, design meetings, signing meetings, Medicaid application submissions, the moments when you actually get paid. Light green is a quagmire. You got to do some of it, but it's the dangerous part, because I have found for many members with whom I speak, they say light green grows like a weed throughout the calendar and infiltrates all things. These are the calls that just come up. This is the client that just needs attention. These are the things that need to get done in order to get to the dark green. Client work, the follow-up with no fee projected, but you got to do this thing in order to get to the point where you can earn the fee. Post-vision, pre-design, the drafting, the client work, all the things that go into actually generating the fee. Now, I have a lot of client calls over the weeks, and this one comes up constantly, that light green eating into and taking away the yellow time. And the yellow time, the gold standard of them all, the best time there is, this is individual or team focus. This is when you are building your firm. It's planning, it's the firm meetings, it's the development, it's coaching, it's implementation. The guidelines are 40% for all things blue, 40% for all things green, and 20% of your time for all things yellow. Now, what is the consequence of sacrificing any of these? Well, if you don't do the yellow and guard it and protect it and do it, you don't get to have the business you want. You don't get to have the life you want. Think about that. It's important time. If you don't do the blue, you don't get the kind of client you want. You get whomever happens to pour in the door, whatever their issue happens to be, however well it may or may not happen to pay. Blue time is necessary to get working with the people with whom you want to work. And of course, the green time is vital because that's where you actually get paid. So the time template, boy, when I learned this tool, I found this to be a life changer. If you have not implemented it, if you have strayed from it, or if you just can't stick to it for one reason or another, revisit it. This is the game changer. This is the one that I know it changed my life. And speaking to a lot of members who've successfully implemented this, they will confirm, yep, that was the game changer for me. This is the thing. This is what changed everything. The way I happen to build mine is I start with my revenue goal and I figure out how many green meetings am I going to need in a month? How many dark green meetings am I going to need in that month? And of course, then to make sure I get enough of those, I better have enough dark blue meetings every month and get engaged to actually do it. My next favorite thing to do, I want to know what days I'm taking off or what hours I'm taking off. When am I going to be with my family? When am I not going to be available to work? Chart it out ahead of time and stick to it, and I guard it like a vicious dog protecting a bone. Next off, this is an example of a full work week. Notice how much dedicated yellow time that there is. And notice what's just plain old white in here. You say, well, wait a minute, white's not one of those colors, right? White time is not mine to fill in. That's my time to be available. But it's my client services coordinator's job to fill it in. She knows that 5 of those need to be dark green in order for us to hit revenue for the month. And she knows that in order to get 5 dark greens, I better get 5 dark blues in there. Now, I don't care which one is where on any given day. I know she's got to coordinate calls with client schedules and all that sort of thing. But the goal is to make sure that I've made some time available and to make sure that she is aware of which colors need to get filled in as clients call.
Couple of tips just that have worked for us is build got a minute time right into your schedule. We have 30 minutes a day of got a minute time, but everybody on the team has it. That way, everybody knows that those 30 minutes or whatever amount of time you think you need for the size of your firm is everybody's available. Everybody knows they can reach me for those 30 minutes. Everybody can be reached. So instead of just calling the person when you come up with something, write it down. And then during the got a minute time, you have that person available to you. So you're not blowing them up. You're not blowing yourself up. Everybody's staying true to their time template. So that's a huge one for us. The other thing that really I think was a defining moment for us was when we did block 4 hours on Friday afternoon. If anybody's ever called our office afternoon on Friday, do you know what happens? Goes to voicemail. We are closed at noon on Fridays, and we have been since 2011, when Dave said, you need to start implementing this system and you need a dedicated time when the phones aren't ringing and your team can dedicate to it and not have 2x4s of life swing at their head. And if you don't dedicate time to do that, it's never going to happen. And we still have not gotten rid of it. From 12 to 5 on Friday, it's our time for our team to grow, personal, professional development, next system, next thing we're going to implement in LWP. That is still there to this day. We have not gotten rid of that. And I personally think that was one of the biggest things that we did that helped us take those leaps. But it's everybody on the team. Everybody has to buy in. Everybody has to hold each other accountable. Accountability is the number one thing. And we declare in our Monday office meetings, what are we going to do during growth time this week? And then the next Monday, we'd report out how our growth time went. So it's not just free time. You know, you do have to report out, but definitely those are two things that really helped us.
A couple other things that I'll piggyback on that part of the conversation with is notice yellow time. Everybody at the firm ought to have their time template, and ideally the yellow times match up. Because when I'm doing yellow time, that means everybody on my team knows that's when I'm working on the business. That's when they are too. That's when we're available to meet with each other. That's when we're available to work on our projects. The other thing is you're going to go home from this taper with a whole list of highly structured things to implement. You're going to be excited about it, and then Monday's going to come. And that horrible light green ivy is going to try to grow and infiltrate your calendar. If you don't maintain your sacred yellow time, you don't get to implement the ideas that you came up with from this very valuable retreat that you're on right now. It is your only opportunity to do so. So guard that time. The other thing I would say is, hey, team members, do you notice how much time, I mean, if this is an attorney template, do you notice how much time is left for the attorney to handle things that are perhaps able to be delegated? How much can you take off your attorney's plate so that you can get your attorney into the place where your attorney's doing the enrollment, doing the RMS, and doing the dark green meetings? Really strive, everybody, to make it so that there is less and less light green time required by the attorney, because so much of the attorney's time needs to be taken up in the blues and in the dark green in order to make the firm profitable. So guard your calendar, attorneys, and team members, help guard the attorney's calendar, because the more light green that infiltrates into the dark blues and the dark greens, the less overall revenue is available.
One other comment, Tim, before we move on. I did have one aha moment in a coaching call that I was having with Dave a few years ago that I want to share. I had at that time 3 or 4 hours to get actual client work done on my calendar a week. So whether it was reviewing documents or reviewing trusts or, whatever it was to get the work done. And Dave said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, it's time to work on clients. He goes, I know. Which clients? Who? What are you doing? And it was that moment when I realized what you want to be doing is when you do your planning before the week, that's why you're doing your monthly planning. That's why you're doing your quarterly planning and your weekly planning and your daily planning. Is you're actually going to fill in on your calendar and in your planning exactly what you're doing during that 4-hour block. So don't show up in that 4-hour block without knowing exactly what you're doing. So now in my calendar, it'll say Jones, review trust, Harrison, review document. Procrastination is what's going to kill you. So you need to show up in your 4-hour block knowing exactly what you're doing. If you've got 4 hours of growth and you're in implementation, or you go on the website and you learn what it is, the next piece is that you're supposed to be doing, put that right in your calendar. Don't give yourself a chance to have to think about what you're doing next. Show up knowing exactly what you're doing, what client, what's the matter number, so you can jump right in with no procrastination. That's a huge game changer for me. I feel like Phil and Mandy are going, yeah, amen, preach it, Jeffrey, preach it.
I think they're looking at me just saying, oh, thank God, finally. All right, this one's you, Jeff.
All right. So there's so much, I mean, Tim and I have alluded to it, and, let's just call a spade a spade. It's a lot. It's a lot. So if you're new, or even if you're not new and you're looking at it going, this is ridiculous, guys. There is no way that we can possibly learn everything. Um, it may feel that way. And honestly, you can, and you will get there. And again, don't bite the elephant all at once. Just take one little bite at a time. But what's available? How are we learning the system? I think it starts with the program. That website is amazing with all of the stuff that's on there, the tools, the resources, the implementation program. I think they're calling it now the Law Firm Performance Program. So I kind of wanted the new lingo to make sure I was relevant. The retreats that you're here today for, the taper programs, the Y days, all part of learning the system. Time templating, it's in there. It's part of the implementation. There's tons of webinars on it. There's tons of sessions about it, how to implement them. There's even some recent ones that you can watch as well. Focusers, there's presentations on that. A pretty close second to time templating. I think when Tim and I were preparing for this, we both kind of agreed that probably the single most important thing is time templating. I think we kind of both consensed that that was true. But not far behind it is the planning. If you're not planning on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis with the planning tools that are available, you're really missing out. That was a game changer for me. So there's tons of materials on that stuff, the webinars, the videos, the monthly group growth calls for the platinum level members, the one-on-one accountability calls, the twice weekly calls called Member Power Hour available. And for those of you in the right level, there's the one-on-one practice coaching calls. I can't stress that stuff enough. Accountability is key. And not that I don't think that each of us are accountable. I think we all do our best, and I think we all mean the best. But the 2x4s of life are swinging, and we got a lot to juggle. You team members, man, phones ringing, people are showing up, they're yelling at you at the other end of the phone. So take time in that yellow time for yourself and have a buddy. I to this day still have a buddy call. Maybe there's a group of people that you are friends with that you want to meet with once a week, different people who share a similar role to you, or get in a coaching program. Use your coaching, use your implementation coaches as your accountability partners. When I was in the one-on-one coaching with Dave, and now being in the E-Freedom program, that's it. Showing up, knowing that I have to have that work done. I mean, I guarantee you, I'm not showing up on a coaching call not having done my homework. I'm not showing up on a buddy call not having done what I told my buddy I was going to do, right? It's integrity. Do what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, make sure you clean it up. And so set yourself up for success. Attorneys, give permission to your team to hold you accountable. I can guarantee you, Tammy doesn't hesitate when Jeffrey falls away from the system to tell Jeffrey that he followed away from the system. She is the very first person. And you know what? Good for her. And that's what keeps it real. And that's what keeps me going on a daily basis. So if you've got a lot of members in your state, go ahead and host a call. We host a PA call. It's a lot of fun, and it gives you an opportunity to touch base with other members in your state. But I also would use that for accountability purposes. If you're looking to try to make sure that you can accomplish something, use them, lean on them, lean on your systems around you. Accountability. I think I've said that 45 times, so I apologize, but it's really important. So what is the FDS mindset? You've heard the story, you heard where it came from, you kind of heard a little bit about both Tim and Jeff's story and who we are. As we were putting this together, it's not about perfection. I mean, that is one thing that I really want to stress. You're never going to get to perfection. There's no such thing. So if your goal is perfection, you got to leave that at the door. When I've worked with a lot of members and help them, one of the things that I hear all the time is, well, I can't do a workshop until I understand 100% of it 100%. I can't do a vision meeting until I understand every part of the documents. I can't do a whatever, fill in the blank until, man, that's a slippery slope. That's a dangerous place you're never going to be 100% comfortable with everything. So don't let perfection, whatever that means to you, be the enemy of good. Understand the importance of keep moving forward. I hear that song in my head. What is it? Finding Nemo? Just keep swimming.
Keep swimming.
Over and over again. And just keep swimming, guys. Just keep moving forward. You're not going to be perfect. It's not going to be 100% right. But just keep swimming. Keep moving forward. Keep your promises to yourself. There's going to be hiccups. I promise you that. Be honest to your time template. Do what you're supposed to do. Be accountable. Do when you say you're going to do it. Make sure you do that. Build time right in. Build right time into your calendar to have time to learn it and implement it. Attend the retreats. You need that reset. You need to kind of just remember the why behind what we're doing. So important. Understand the science. Every system is built on another system. And if you don't meet those requirements at the beginning, I promise you're missing something later on. FDS is not about following what it says just blindly. It's about understanding the science behind it and doing what the science is to be successful. And you don't have to have an absolute mastery over every component. I can't stress that enough. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about different Kolbe styles that might factor into some of that, but don't allow that perfectionism or that mastery of everything to slow you down from just doing your best and just keep moving forward.
Speaking of Kolbe, Jeff and I, one of the things that I enjoyed about our prep for this was comparing our Kolbe scores, because more different we could not be, right? I mean, here Jeff sits as a 2 fact finder. I'm a 7. So what does that do to me? That makes me have the problem that Jeff commented on in the last slide. It was, oh gosh, it has to be perfect before I dare to roll it out. I have to understand every single piece of it before I try it. I get analysis paralysis very easy. Next up, we look at our follow-through scores. 3 for Jeff, 6 for Tim. I'll follow through, but only begrudgingly. Jeff, I don't know how you're functioning over there. But look at this number, 9 for Jeff Bellomo, coming through strong with a quick start. I look at you quick starts and I think sometimes I'm jealous. Sometimes I'm flat out jealous because it took me, what? I shared with you earlier, 2 years of training the program before I hauled off and committed to following the system myself in my own practice. I'm a bit of a slow start, right? What else would somebody my age have business with having a kindergartner? Different story. So anyway, we are so incredibly different. Of course, when we look at implementer, we're both low, which means when something breaks around the house, hire it out. I can't do it. You can put a honey-do list on the fridge, but it's just going to stay there till the fridge handle falls off, which I also cannot fix. But we're analyzing this, Jeff and I, and we're thinking, my gosh, we are so incredibly different. How could it possibly be the case that the exact same system works so well for both of us? What is it about the system? And the answer I think we came up with was this system is going to work based more on whether you share LWP core values than on what your Kolbe score might be or what your strengths finder might show. Are you open? Are you curious? Doesn't matter what your Kolbe score is. Are you those things? Are you aware? Are you generous? Talk about generous. Jeff Bellomo started the boot camp for social workers. I said, Jeff, I'm intrigued. He said, come on down. And didn't I spend a month one day in Pennsylvania, York? It was just great. But I really appreciated the generosity. Here are my materials. Here's my stuff. Let me support you. Are you adaptable? Are you collaborative? So, wherever you're coming from, and fact finders, I'm one of you. I feel for you. I understand how difficult it is to fully commit to implementing a system that is drinking from a fire hose big. It hurts, but it works. It works. And you can see it works so well for so many other members. That was one of the things that helped me so much. Before I could fully get every single thing, I committed to it. because I'm seeing it work for other people, and I'm seeing this amount of support I have in this community by following the system.
Be aware of your Colby score, but don't use it as an excuse. Don't use it as a weapon. You know, it is what it is. So they call me Bright Shiny Object Boy for a reason. And I don't know if you've caught my eyes every so often. I look over to the left because there's a pretty dog over here right now. And I swear to you, there is a really pretty dog. And I keep looking at it. But I know that about me. And the team knows that about me. And I always love whenever we're doing team trainings and people on my team learn that I'm a 9 quick start, because for most of my team members, they're shocked to hear that. Why are they shocked to hear that? Because I plan with the best of them. I know my weakness. I know that if I don't plan my week every moment of every day, I'm gonna follow that nice little pretty white dog that's just leaving the corner of my window now. I know that's gonna happen. So I plan every minute of my week so I can't procrastinate. So if you're a high fact finder, you have to build systems around you. You have to build accountability things around you that will allow you to move forward. If you're a high quick start, if there's any 9 quick starts or 10 quick starts out there, planning. You have to plan. So don't use it as an excuse. Rather use it as a positive thing. Just be aware of it and build systems around you, which are already here. LWSB built them. You just have to use them to make sure that you don't kind of get caught down that rabbit hole, if you will. So,
And Jeff, to piggyback on that, from the other point of view, high
yes,
fact
sir.
finders among us, Jeff has to be aware of his quick startness and therefore plan excessively. I got to be aware of my reluctance and of my analysis paralysis, and I got to take a risk once in a while. It was a hard thing for me to say, you know what, I'm going all in. I'm switching from my Outlook calendar to my Action Step calendar. That was hard because I didn't know everything about Action Step first. I recognize that I've got this high fact finder thing and this low quick start thing. So knowing that, I've got to be willing to take a risk once in a while.
And what do you do on your side then, Tim? Like for me, I keep it because it holds me accountable. So for you, is it a matter of, okay, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes for this and hold yourself accountable to trying to finish it in that window? Is that how you would do it with a high fact finder?
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. I've got to limit the amount of time that I will spend on a particular thing. Um, but the broader thing is adopt somebody else's documents. Whoa, without having created them, without having researched every word, without having done all the things. That was an act of terror for me as a high fact finder. What I have learned is there are advantages to being a high fact finder, but I can't let it paralyze me. That realization helped me to jump in fully and to commit to following the system.
Yeah. So let's face it, we all have head trash. Tim and I had a great time in our conversation prepping, and we probably could have done 6 slides if we wanted, but we decided to kind of make it one. So what are some things that we hear, as talking to members? The system won't work. The documents could be different. They could be better. I don't like this word. I don't like that word. I don't like that paragraph. I can't hire anyone. I don't have any money. Time templating is silly, man. If a client wants to meet with me, I'm going to meet with them because I need the cash flow. RMS won't work. I mean, that's the dumbest thing ever. You write out every answer to a question. What the heck is that about? That's got to be awkward in a meeting, huh? Getting an agreement in a vision meeting, you can't do that. You're gonna turn people away. You're gonna force them to think that you're pushing them. My way is fine. Yeah, this is just too much. It didn't work. I did it. I tried it. I did it once. It didn't work. It's over. I'm on beyond that now. I gave you one shot. It's done. I'll try this. I might do that a little bit yesterday and maybe tomorrow, but not Friday because I don't like it on Sunday and twice on Tuesday. And, come on, we could go on forever. And I could probably sit here for 2 hours and give story after story of this member and that member and obviously not names, but just stories about the head trash. And probably 2 days that I could give you of my own head trash. So it's more about just acknowledging it, being aware of it, paying attention to it, evaluating it in real time, and keep moving. Keep moving forward. Keep acknowledging where your head trash is and when it's coming up, and then evaluating it, thinking about it, being aware of it, and then anchoring back to the system. Make sure you're having that time every week not only for accountability purposes, but also for learning the new system. So there's a few. What do you think? We could have done 2 more pages of that, I assume.
Easily.
So what's your mindset, right? I'm going to find out what's wrong. I'm sorry, I'm going to find out what is wrong and choose not to use it. I'm going to pick and choose a few things, but not everything. The first thing I tried didn't work, so I'm out. I'm going to tinker with everything and modify it and make it my way, or I'm going to FDS to the best of my ability. And when I fail and when I fall off the wagon, I'm going to get right back on. And that's what we want to get at today is you're never going to be perfect. It's never going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be or the way you want it to be. But when you fall, you hop right back on and say, okay, I got this. But that doesn't happen by chance. You have to be aware. You have to have all the core values. And you also have to have the accountability and the time in your system to be able to be aware of it. And I know we're beating a dead horse, but you can't say that enough. You can't stress that enough, which is it all works together. It all has to be in there. And rely on the other people around you. I can't stress that enough either.
And I find in doing member calls that, people who are most successful with this, their energy goes toward figuring out why this aspect of the system will work, rather than having their energy going into attacking it, attacking a document or attacking the way a vision meeting is done or attacking anything else. What do we come up with, Jeff? Nobody buys a dishwasher only to figure out what's wrong with the thing. You buy a dishwasher to make it wash your dishes and to have a successful experience with it. Well, nobody signs up for LWP only to figure out all the things that are wrong with it. You buy into LWP because you know it's going to work. Use it. It's a cool thing.
What I was doing Insanity on a regular basis, one of the comments that the Sean T says is do your best and forget the rest. And I think that so applies here, which is do your best and forget it. Don't let it wear you down. Don't let it derail you. Just keep moving. And the other thing that struck me, I try to read or listen to a book a week if I can. And I did one recently on atomic habits. And, this is all about habits. What habits are you in? What are the habits that you're doing? And building that time template builds that habit for you, which is at a certain time, you're doing this and you just do it because that's the habit that you're in and doing it. And it will get there. For the people who struggle with it, as long as you're giving permission to others around you to hold you accountable, it's my team that calls me out when I'm not following my template, but you just get in the habit of doing it and it goes from there. So.
Mm-hmm. So good ways forward, acknowledge that it's not all going to be perfect at once. It is too much. It is drinking from a fire hose. You can't implement the whole thing at a time. And it's okay to proceed with it, even if not. That was a lot of time on the couch, staring up into the sky to figure that one out for this high fact finder. You FDS as much as possible, and you FDS more and more all the time. I could tell you that my team and I at this afternoon's retreat, we're going to figure out which parts of the system we're not currently operating and which parts of it we're able to get ever more compliance with before the next taper. Team holds the owners accountable. We need you. Please do it. Don't let us deviate. Don't let us know when you see us messing something up. Have FDS mindsets, a commitment to use our energy to implement, not a commitment to use our energy to point out why we can't do it or make up reasons why we can't do it. Those LWP metrics of firms and expected revenues that are shared from time to time at different conferences, you can get to the next level, but the firms that always get to that next level, they're doing it not because they ignore the system or not because they come up with complaints about the system, but because they follow the system. So tools available to help this community between listserv, these events. I'm sorry that we're not in person. Virtual is great, but it's just not the same. But what a community this organization is. The law firm practice performance program with training modules and monthly group calls and one-on-one accountability calls quarterly, the twice weekly member power hour. All these sorts of things are great tools to remind you of what the system is and urge you to come back to it, and then hold you accountable. Buddy calls, like Jeff mentioned earlier, have a friend. You have a special bond with the people with whom you went through PWP with. Stay in touch. It is a generous, open, collaborative community. The constantly improving website and the constantly updated website. And it's important for team members. If you don't get team member buy-in, it's not going to work. And if the team members aren't given the opportunity to establish buy-in through proper training, through building the plan forward, through working through retreats together, that's a big obstacle, because it is a big system and it's a lot to do. And so the more buy-in and the more excitement about it, the better we are. All right, Jeff, your new toy.
So as we were preparing for this, Tim will tell you, I have a lot of energy around this topic. And as I was preparing for it, as I was talking to everybody to prep, I was talking to a lot of the members, and I'm very close with a lot of members who call me when they're struggling. And you can't just say to them, follow the damn system, right? Because on some level they get annoyed with it and say, well, I would if I could, but I can't. And one of my friends in particular, attended the program with me in 2010. And after about, 7 months to a year, he decided that it wouldn't work and he left. And then he came back recently, having seen the success that we were having as a firm, knowing that he was in the room with me in 2010 in February, and wanted to give it another shot. And he believed in it more. And when we were having conversations, he struggles. And I don't like the document in this paragraph, and I don't like this section, and I don't like that word, and what if this and what if that, and complete paralysis. And I said, I've been doing it now for almost 12 years, and we've never had a claim. We've never had any sort of malpractice issue or case or suit. We're a pretty high volume firm. We're up to 16 members now on our team. So, we're certainly doing a decent bit of volume, and we've never had a problem. And he said, wow, okay, well, that does make me feel better. So you think it really works? Yeah, we've been doing it now 12 years. We've got, okay, well, what if it doesn't? What if we're wrong? And I said, okay, let's play that what if. I contact my malpractice carrier. I have a $10,000 deductible. The client's made whole. One thing that Candace Pollock always says is, thank goodness we're not doing medicine. We're not practicing medicine. People don't die, and I'm not using that as an excuse to make mistakes or to make you not feel like it's important. It is important. But when somebody has gone before you and done thousands of these and never had an issue, the documents are good. Are they perfect? No, I'm probably not perfect. But are they good enough? You're darn right. And I don't make changes. People on our PA calls are fascinated to hear that. And we talk about it every month. And it's always served me well. And so I wanted a tool that allowed people to really think about what they're doing. And for me, it's being intentional. So if you're going to change something, you can't just do it because it feels right. You have to do it after analyzing it and going through a lot of thinking about it, the pros, the cons. By doing this, what's going to happen? And if at the end of the day you still choose to do it, then I say submit it to LWP's help desk and have them change the system. And I think Mandy mentioned that yesterday in her vision meeting session, which is, look, if it's better, we want it. We want to do it that way. There's no doubt. So what I did with the help of Dave, and we created an analyzer, an FDS analyzer. Now, I used to do this through an idea focuser. If I wanted to change the system in one way, I made myself pull out an idea focuser and fill out the idea focuser. What's my idea? Screw the system. I want to do it my way. Okay, well, what's the benefit of doing it that way? And I didn't feel like it was exactly what I was looking for. So we created the analyzer, which is, what is the issue that you are being asked to follow? What is the FDS issue? What is your discomfort about following it and why? What is the science behind the rule? How would you apply the science your way, or how would you do it? What will it take for you to do it your way versus what is already there and in the system currently? What are you getting that the system is not giving you? What is the delta? What is the prize? What is the result? How do you benefit? How do you gain? What is the benefit of the client doing it your way? What is the hidden costs of doing it your way? What are the costs of you going rogue? Efficiency, inability to follow other parts of the system, tasks in the LWP process because of your failure to follow it now. And if you can get through this entire analyzer and still believe it's better and you have a better way, then please submit it to the help desk. And we mean that. You know, Dave and I are genuine about that. If it's better, we want to implement it for everybody in LWP. And we'll try to assist everybody in doing it that way. And really, you know, I think one of the concerns that Tim and I had, or at least I had, and I think Tim kind of shared it with me, is, gee, Jeff, you know, if you give somebody an out, they're going to take it. Well, this isn't intended to give you an out. It's intended to make you really think through it, to realize that the way you're doing it isn't better, and to really think through both sides of it. And I think it's too easy to just make a change to something if you don't have to come up with thinking it all through and what are the effects. And in our e-freedom coaching program, you know, there's some things that I had changed, and, you know, being held accountable to, well, do you realize how much work you're causing Cookie? Do you realize how many reports she has to do by hand now because of that decision? And you know what the answer was? No, I had no idea it took her an extra 40 minutes a week because of me, because I would never want to cause anyone else more work. Well, do you realize that by doing it that way, we have to make up for that in 3 different ways on the back end? No, I had no idea. And I guess that most attorneys probably don't. I mean, is that fair? I don't know the system like my team does. And as I started this presentation off today, team, you're the key here. I think you're more important than the attorney entrepreneurs. Your firm will succeed based upon your willingness to buy in. If Tammy was not on that plane with me and in that room in 2010, we would not be here today. Guaranteed. And she bought in 100% lock, stock, and barrel. And I think it was more of when Jeff was ready to hear it, or when Jeff was ready to be held accountable, because, you know, there are times where I'm more open to it than others, but that's where the success comes from. So I filled out actually 3 or 4 of these just for different things, not necessarily how I was feeling, but ways that I feel that people have said to me. So Tim, what do you think? Should I pick one, or should we open it up to the group, or what are you thinking?
Let's see. All right, so let's see how well you predicted. What if you open it to the group and see if somebody picks one of the ones that you prepped? How's that?
All right.
I bet it happens.
So does anybody have something that they are considering tinkering with or doing differently than the system because you believe that your way is better than the LWP system?
Or that you do tinker with, or that you do differently.
Or that you do, yeah.
Chosen to disregard and not implement.
Yeah. Oh, Jenna, engagement agreements getting signed in the vision meeting. All right, let's see here. You know what? I did not do that one because they did the session yesterday. That's right. I did not do that one. All right, so we want to walk through it. All right. So Tim, I'm going to have you help me out here.
Okay.
What is the rule? What is the issue that you're being asked to follow? Well, getting an engagement reading in the vision meeting.
Mm-hmm. Now, the way I would take that first question, I would say, this forces you to be sure that you really know what the rule is, that you really know what the says you're supposed to do. Because a lot of the time, it's such an overwhelm when we first learn the system, you know, this piece of it or that piece of it may have escaped us. But what I love about this first question, Jeff, is it forces you to really understand what the system says to do in that instance in the first place.
Yeah, and if you can't answer that, that says a lot too. So go to your resources, you know, go back to all the things that we've talked about in here about who could help you answer that question. What is the discomfort in following it? So it's awkward, It's uncomfortable. It's
Oh,
salesy.
that one came up yesterday. Ooh, it feels so salesy when I'm pushing it in front of somebody. Yeah.
You know? And why are you uncomfortable? Because it just feels bad. It feels awkward. That people get turned off by it, right? What's the science behind the rule? Now, this one I'll defer to you, my friend. You go ahead. What's the science behind getting the engagement agreement in the vision meeting?
All right, so I would say it's kind of a two-parter. One is that is the moment when the client is best able to make a good decision, because that is the moment when the client has had the workshop, has had the follow-up to the workshop, and has just sat with you through the vision meeting. They did the audit. It's all fresh in their minds. That's the moment to make the decision because that's when they know it best. That's for them. That's why it's in the best interest of the client. Why it's in the best interest of the law firm, that lets you know what to do next. That lets you know as a firm what to anticipate as cash flow in the design meeting that you can schedule next.
And those are populated, once you follow the system and you have everything in action step, that stuff is populated for you. So by not doing it that way, you're costing a team member a lot of time having to basically recreate the system, I guess is probably the best way of saying it. So how would you apply the science your way? So I guess it would be getting the engagement agreement in the design meeting, letting them, come back, scheduling the meeting with them in the vision meeting so that you have them feeling accountable to come back, and then you'll get the engagement agreement in the design meeting.
Now I see your tool working because I see that approach. I see the wheels coming off of it already. How would you apply the science your way? What I'm learning from this tool is, oh geez, the science, freshest in the mind, able to forecast payroll, I'm sorry, able to forecast cash flow, those go away. So you are deviating from the science. I think that is a function of this question. It's forcing us to recognize that we are deviating from the science of why that was the system in the first place.
Yeah, and what will it take for you to do it your way? I think we talked about that, which is now somebody has to recreate systems behind to change the focusers and to change the cash flow and the projections, and um, it can be done, but at what cost? And what parts of the science did you mess up? You said some wonderful things yesterday in your meeting, Tim, that hit me. In terms of people that were thinking of doing it this way. Uh, you know, they want to commit. They want to move forward. They wouldn't be there if they didn't want to. That was a really eye opener for me. So what's next? What are you getting in the system that it's not giving you? What is the delta? What is the prize? What's the result? How do you benefit? What do you gain? What is the benefit to doing it your way? It feels better, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, how cynical do I get to be here?
Go ahead.
Didn't feel awkward based upon something that you had in your head that probably wasn't true in the first place.
Right.
Was that too much?
Well said, my friend. Well said. um, Hidden costs of you going rogue, efficiency. I think there's a few here, right? I think the science piece of them committing and wanting to move forward, you blowing up your back office and having to recreate forms and focusers. I'm sure there's others.
It's not in the best interest of the client. The client's going to walk out thinking, well, I didn't accomplish anything.
Right.
Now I'm just going to go forget and then have to make the decision.
And, as you get to this last question, as I started today off with, there's a science behind this. And, the science is built in a way that maximizes the efficiency, but also the hires, the per dollar hires, the rates, and it's also protecting the client as well. So, I don't think this is one that if you submit it to LWP, they're probably going to change the system for you. I'm pretty confident in that one. So let me save the time for you. And I'll say this, having gone through it, even if it's something that you're already doing, it might poke some holes in your feelings and make you realize, oh crap, I didn't even realize I was feeling that way. And lo and behold, look at this. So use it as a tool, use it as a way to kind of flesh out your idea. Um, you know, and really think through both sides of it is probably the best thing that I would say.
Okay. So Jeff, why don't we move through our remaining slides? We're great on time, and then take a couple questions, and
Let's do it.
that sound good? All right. So we did the group activity. So this is you, Jeff.
Yeah, and this is as I told you earlier, I called a couple different people that I respect tremendously, and those of you who have heard me speak know that I hold Candace Pollock in high regard, and I think she's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I think she's one of the best coaches that I've ever been around, and I respect her tremendously. And I called her, and I know that she does a lot of coaching. I know she talks to a lot of members, and she was giving me a lot of examples of things that members have said to her on calls, and that her response is, yes, I hear you. And yes, and meaning keep moving forward. Don't use that as a but. Don't use that as a stopping point. Acknowledge your feelings. It is real. If your frustration in a certain part of the system is there and you're feeling it, it's real, and you should acknowledge it and you should feel it. And yes, and as she was saying that, I was getting energized. Like I wanted to really bust through a wall. Like I had this like extra power of yes, and I wanted to put it in here for you to think about that if you're ever struggling, which is, yeah, it's real, and don't dismiss it, and keep moving forward, and keep swimming, right? Use your accountability partners, use your tools. Don't stop. Don't use that but. Don't use that spot as an ending. Acknowledge it, go through your process, and keep moving forward. And that really hit me. And I want to thank her for, her conversation with me. I think we were on the phone that day for an hour, but a lot of what this presentation ended up being was because of her and her feedback. So I do want to thank Candy for your great feedback on that. And what a great perspective. Just keep swimming.
So FDS, your way to a profitable, peaceful, and purposeful practice. Look at the perks of using the system fully, right? You avoid malpractice, all those safeguards that are within there. It is a less stressful existence. You're not worried about recreating the wheel. You're not worried about what you're missing. You are increasing the efficiency of all that you do, leaving you time for more community involvement, leaving you time and the ability to do more for your team, leaving you the time to spend with your family, sleep better at night, do whatever you want, do whatever fulfills you, live an LWP lifestyle, which I think of as very different for different members, and it gets to be. It gets to be very different. However you value your success, using the system enables you to achieve that. I love it that this came up on the listserv, or not listserv, but the chat bot room, and dominated it for a while. It is time for Dave Zampano to update some of his jokes. So Prego was a commercial. What was it, Dave? About 1985, that one was on there. So it ended with an homage to the spiciness of the sauce. It's in there. But mama, does it have any garlic? It's in there. So Dave's been making this joke since I met him, and I suspect for a while before. Point is, whatever it takes to run your law firm successfully, it's in the system. Use it, believe in it, and I challenge you to put your energy in toward implementing it rather than putting your energy into figuring out why you should deviate from it or change anything about it. With that, we got a couple of minutes and a little bit of time for some questions.
There's one comment I want to make. For years, I was always embarrassed to make money. It was hard. I didn't want to make money. Somehow that was a bad thing. And I remember Dave saying, well, what motivates you? And I said, giving back to the community, giving to Olivia's house, helping my team members out, doing things for my team, being there for their families. And he said, well, that's what you're doing it for then. You're not making money to make money for yourself. You're doing it to be able to give more donations and do for the community and do for your team. And that helped me. I guess maybe it's semantics. I don't know, but it changed my entire perspective. And first of all, there is nothing wrong with making money. And so I do want to acknowledge that. But for those of you struggling with it, please know that do it for your why, do it for your purpose. And if it's for your team, if it's for your community, then do it for that reason. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, that's what you do it for.
Okay.
So is there anything in the chat box, my friend?
Oh, the chat box is lit up. But
There's lots of samples for you guys to go through and use your analyzers, what a lot of those are.
say that again?
Some people ask, why use the audit? Why use the clarifier? When you were using an example of the FDS analyzer,
Yeah.
there was a bunch of chats on that. There's some couple other ones I could get here.
Why do a design meeting was one.
Yeah, why not you combine the vision and design meetings instead of having them as two separate ones?
Okay. So all of these kind of, remember how my head is in PWP. I just taught it. I've taught it a lot. So it's laid out there. For that question to arise, remember what a client has gone through. You're asking why not combine the vision meeting and the design meeting at the same time. According to the system, there is one instance where you do that. And that's if it's a base plan. If it turns out that this is going to be a very simple thing and the design questions are only going to take a couple of minutes, yes, that's what the system says to do. However, if you've got something more complex and you brought a client through the audit and you brought them through the vision clarifier and you brought them through the asset risk analysis and they made this substantial decision and it took probably an hour to an hour and a half, they're tired. They're tired out. Second reason, the science behind dividing the design meeting to another time, give them the opportunity to go think about the things, back to the system, that are on the design meeting considerations document. I don't want to sit across from you after an hour of vision meeting and ask you, so how long would you want doctors to try to keep your heart beating if it stopped? No, you go think, you go talk to people to make those kinds of decisions quicker, collectible, more efficient, and to give them time. They're tired out. So that's the science behind it. That's the reason why it's structured that way. If you're going
One
to,
more element of science, Tim.
what's
One
that?
more element of science is cash flow, right? You get to then control when that design meeting is and when you take that cash flow in. That's how you run a successful business that doesn't go up and down like a yo-yo. And you just right, you went through a vision, you went through an audit, a clarifier, you know what else you went through? The engagement agreement. So, I mean, you put that all in their head and then, okay, now who do you want to be your executor for another hour and a half session? It's not, for us as lawyers, we can do it, but for the typical consumer, they really need that space to be able to prepare properly.
Anything else? We could probably do one more.
Can I make a comment?
I guess.
You know, I sat here and listened to this whole presentation, and I want to share with you and Jeff, thanks, but I want to tell you what I took away from this presentation. This presentation gave me confidence that Lawyers of Purpose has become so much bigger than who Dave Zampano is, and that this organization, through its leaders, meaning the team members we have here at LWP, but most importantly through the members. You know, Jeff, Tim, you're teaching, but you're an active member, a lawyer, an active participant. Amanda Smith joined the ranks of being on the other side of the fence recently, and she's teaching LWP Practice with Purpose with you. It gives me great confidence, and I'm very proud of all of you. And the fact this was never meant to be about Dave Zampano. This was meant to be about all of you. And for the first time, I could tell you, as a business owner, I truly believe that this organization now has what it needs in its members to carry it wherever it wants to go. And I entrust to you and Jeff and all the other ones who are here listening. What do you want to do? What part do you want to have in the future of this company and what we mean to the estate planning community? So thank you, Jeff and Tim, for really reaffirming that this is so much bigger than any one of us and really is something great And again, if there's something better, we will create it with you all together. It takes all of us. So I want to thank you two for your time. Your commitment was obvious, came from your guts and your hearts, and your sharing of your personal story. I think it's inspirational to all of us. Thank you very much.
What do you think, everybody? Did you have fun?
Nah.
Did you learn a lot? Did the time fly by? Awesome. Go ahead and give us all fives. Tell us how wonderful we are and what grades. I'm kidding. Fill out the evaluation on Event Mobi. Tim, can't thank you enough for doing this with me today. And thank you to everybody at LWP who helped make this a reality. And I hope for all of you team members sitting out there that you are empowered, that you understand that you can make this happen and you can make the change for your firm and that you are what matters. So go FDS and be successful.
All right. Jeff, thanks very much. Pleasure. Pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys.